Hi, welcome to another edition of the Writer's Book Nook. I'm Sherry Winston, the writer, and I am here to give you my June wrap up. Now, this was a really good book month for me. I listened to or I read 12 books, so that might be a personal best. And I'm so excited to give you my wrap up on my thoughts on each of these books. So if you are in need of a recommendation or you just got a few minutes to kill, come on, let's get started. Now, the first book that I read, well, listened to, was These Toxic Things by Rachel Hall. Yes. And in this is a thriller suspense novel, and it features Mickey Lambert, who is a young 20 something. I believe she might be 24, 23, or 24. So she's young. And she has a really interesting job. She is a digital archaeologist or digital archivist. Basically, she works for a company where people hire them to save their memories. They to curate. That's the word that they use, to curate their memories. So someone will say, um, I have these things and I have these pictures. And Mickey's job is to write little story, to interview the people, to write little stories about each. And then I think they even make they put it all together and they even make like a some sort of hologram or something. So it sounds really cool. And she gets hired to do a job for a client. And the client's name is Nadia. Now, Nadia is an older woman. Uh, Mickey is a black woman, a young black woman, and Nadia is an older white woman. And Nadia is having memory deficits. She believes that soon she will completely lose her memory. Therefore, the digital archive, sometimes people get them as gifts for family members, and sometimes people get them because it's a way to preserve the history that they might lose because of their memory deficits. So, um, Nadia has a small curio shop in Los Angeles, in a part of, I believe they're in Los Angeles, uh, that is, it's a predominantly minority slash black neighborhood. And her shop has been there for 30 years. And so Mickey has a lot of respect for this woman who, this white lady who's been able to maintain a business in a neighborhood like that, and who would even want to, because I think it's a neighborhood that was decimated by the riots from the 90s. So anyway, Nadia and Mickey, they get on well. It's like, oh, they really like sort of connect with each other. And uh, Nadia tells Mickey, come back to the shop at 5, and I can spend more time with you. She gives her the bare bones. She shows her the items she wants curated. They put them out on the work desk, but the store is open, and so Nadia is being drawn back and forth to customers. So she tells her to come back in the evening, and I believe when the store is closed, and then she can spend time with her. So Mickey goes off. She, oh, by the way, I want to say Mickey. is adulting, but she is adulting. Well, she lives in the guest house at her parents' property, and she is she is very much still under the protection of her family. Her family is very protective of her, and so that's just something to keep in mind for later. So Mickey goes back to the store, and there are all these police there and everything. And there's the woman who owns the cafe across the street that Mickey had met earlier, who is really good friends with Nadia at the store. And the woman from the cafe tells her Nadia is dead. And it appears that she unalived herself. So, Mickey is devastated. It's just like, how could this woman be dead? I just talked to her like, a few minutes ago, a few hours ago. So Mickey and her company decide to finish the project, even though Nadia is no longer alive, because Nadia is paid for it. And they figure Nadia has a son, even though they're estranged, or they were at the beginning of the book. Mickey is hoping, the company is hoping, and Mickey, that he will see this as a cherished gift. So thus begins the story. I don't want to go too much more into it. I'm feeling like I'm not doing this justice. I like this book. I really like this book. This was my first Rachel Hall novel, and I really enjoyed it. I really enjoyed it. I'm looking forward. I have another one of her books that I just uploaded, so I'm really looking forward to listening to it. I gave this book uh, of 4 stars, 4 out of 5. So, um, the reason I gave it that rating is that I mentioned to you before that Mickey is younger and she stays at home. There are parts of it where I just felt like she was borderline whiny. She worked my nerves. She worked my nerves. But at the same time, I listened to this book, and it was a longer book. I want to say it was like 10 hours or 12 hours. And I found that even though she got on my nerves, she was like hanging out with a niece, like with one of my nieces. I just liked spending that time with her. So I looked forward to, when I would have to stop and go, do life. I looked forward to that time of being able to return to pick up where I left off with Mickey. So I liked it. Good book. All right, the next book that I listened to and read was We Don't Talk About Carol by Kristen L. Berry. Now, initially, I got this book just for the title because we don't talk about Carol. I don't know how it is in your family, but we definitely had some people in my family that we were like, oh, we don't talk about him. You just you just didn't want to do it. So I was like, okay. Now in this story, Sydney Singleton is a former journalist turned public relations guru. She works for, a shiny company, and um, is making a lot more money than she did as a journalist. Um, and the story opens where uh, Sydney, her mother, and her sister have traveled to North Carolina to the where the father grew up, and they are there to probate his. I don't want to say estate. Basically, there it's not the father's estate; it's the grandmother. The grandmother has passed, and she has this house that since the father is no longer alive. It goes to the family. So her Sydney's mom and the sisters and the girls are there to prepare the house to be sold. So they go back and they're there packing up things. And in the course of doing that, Sydney comes across a photograph, an old photograph with a boy and a girl. And she understands that the boy is her father, and she looks at the picture of the girl, and the girl looks just like her. So she's like, who is this girl? And her mom doesn't know. And one of one of the grandmother's friends stops by while they're working on the house, and they were good friends. So she shows the woman the picture, and the woman is just like, oh, that's Carol. We don't talk about Carol. And thus it begins. So Sydney is intrigued. I mean, she's a former journalist. You don't even have to have been a journalist to be intrigued by that. It's very intriguing. Why, why am I an adult and I'm just finding out about this ad? Why is it that we can't talk about her? so, so Sydney gets sort of drawn into, she's just fascinated and she's trying to find this information. She starts digging and digging, and it starts creating she doesn't even live in North Carolina. She lives in I want to say she lives in Los Angeles. Her whole family, her sister, her mom, but she feels drawn, and she makes these connections in North Carolina, and she finds a reason to go back, and she wants answers about who this woman is. And as she goes deeper, well, actually, pretty quickly, she learns that Carol was one of several young Black girls who disappeared from that neighborhood back in the late 60s in North Carolina. And at that time, a lot of people in the neighborhood felt like the police didn't really put a lot of effort into figuring out where these Black girls went or what happened to them. So Sydney becomes even more determined, and she digs, and she starts to uncover this frightening web uh, of information about about these girls, and just eh, all of these things about about the disappearances. Now, what I will tell you is, I mean, when I saw the plot, I was like, oh, I'm down with this. It sounds, as a former journalist, I love stories about journalists. As a writer, I like stories about writing. So I really, really connected with that part of the story. Um, I rated this book 3.75. And the reason I rated it 3.75 was that uh, just like with the last book, only much more so, Sydney wore was she worked my last nerve. She really truly did. I found her, and there's this whole subplot about IVF, and it just the relationship between her her mother and her sister was so toxic. She could have had the title of the previous book, These Toxic Things. It could have been These Toxic Women. they were they're bickering, they're constant fighting just over everything. It was just like, I didn't sign up for this. I'm here for the mystery. You can hold the drama. So 3.75. But I did enjoy it. I would recommend it. Um, and yeah, so the next book is called Runner by Tracy Clark. And this is another book that centers around an African American main character. And in this book, Cass Rain, Cass Rains is a former Chicago police detective, and she has left the force and she started her own PI company. I talk with my hands. So she's left the force, and she started her own PI company, and she gets hired by this woman who is a recovering addict who wants to regain um, custody of her daughter. And her daughter's in foster care, and the daughter has gone missing. Uh, Ramona, and Ramona is 15. So Cass is trying to find, is trying to help this woman find her daughter. And the more she digs, the more suspicious she becomes about whether or not this child actually ran away, or if there's something more going on. And she goes to the every DPS, every area, they have a different name for it, but Health and Human Services, whatever the social services department is called. She goes to them and she tries to get information about this home. She actually goes to the home and she meets the woman who runs it, and it's supposed to be one of the best homes in the system, and nothing seems amiss. So if the home was so nice, why did the child leave? Why did she run away? And the cops have been called in, but at the same time, uh, Cass doesn't feel like they're taking it seriously. It's like, oh, she's just a runaway. You know, that's what these kids do in foster care. They run away, they come back. But nobody can explain. Kids usually run for a reason. Um, the girl was doing well in school. Everything that Cass turns over makes her more and more suspicious. And the more and more she digs, the more she realizes that things are not what they seem. So this book, again, it's called Runner, and for obvious reasons, uh, Runner as in runaway. I really, really enjoyed this book. I really enjoyed it. I gave it a 4.5 out of 5. I mean, I thought the pacing was good, the plotting was good. Again, as someone who, oh, sorry, I'm touching my microphone. As someone who loves police procedurals, and detective novels that that follow that pace of searching for answers. I can't believe I didn't know about Tracy Clark. So I bought another one of her books, and I'm looking forward to listening to it and learning more about um the world of Cass Rains. So I really enjoyed that. Now, the next book I read is a part of a long running series, and I plan to do something more on this series later with my uh, way back Wednesday, when I look at older series and uh, mysteries and novels, and things that I've been reading for a long time. And this is one of them. It's the Bones series by Kathy Reichs. Now, you may recognize the name of this because it was a TV show for a good number of years, about 8, 10 years. This Bones was on. But if you've seen the TV show and you think, yeah, I'm good when it comes to the novels, I'm good. The books are much better, much better, as usual. and they don't the character in the book is really nothing like the character on television. I don't even know. I I, I don't know. They bear little resemblance to each other. So, Evil Bones. In this book, uh, the main character is Temperance Brennan. They call her Tempy, and she is a forensic anthropologist. So she's the one that you call when you find remains that cannot be visually identified. When you find old bones, a skull, she's the one who can tell you how long it's, roughly how long it's been there, can assess perhaps what happened to the bones or to the person. So that's what she does. And in this case, she lives in Charlotte, and someone around Charlotte is leaving small creatures that have been mutilated and then displayed in very garish, shocking ways. And Tempe and former homicide detective Skinny Slidell, Skinny Slidell, that's a mouthful, um, are trying to figure out who is leaving these macabre uh, scenes around town. And unfortunately, it isn't long before the perpetrator begins to stage grown-ups, humans in the same fashion. And as they dig deeper into it, uh, Tempe begins to realize that she and her daughter, and maybe even her niece, could be in jeopardy from this wackadoodle. Now this book I rated. This again was another 3.5 stars for me. I've enjoyed this series for almost 2 decades, so I love the character. Um, I really enjoyed this series, but this one, the ones that feature her and her daughter prominently, I tend to like less. Um, I think I think they believe that their sniping is like banter, but I don't know. It just could be cultural. But you just don't talk to your mother the way that that daughter character talks to her. I don't appreciate it. So, and aside from that, the pacing of the mystery of the thriller, it got kind of off track. Like it was, in the beginning, you're really curious and you can feel the dread. You know that this person at some point is going to escalate. And, so you're afraid of that happening. And then it happens. So, it, I was invested. But then the back, like I said, the back and forth with the daughter, and then she had this recalcitrant niece that was staying with her but not really staying with her. You don't know like who is in charge of this young woman's well-being. She goes off on her own. I mean, it was I didn't appreciate that. I didn't enjoy that. So for that reason, I gave Evil Bones uh 3.75. Now, another book that I read was called A Death in the Dark, and it was by Ellie Alexander. And this, I believe, might be my first Ellie Alexander. And this is a cozy mystery. And just charming. It was very light. If you're looking for a light mystery that isn't, that I don't want to call it a palate cleanser. It's a story that stands up in its own right. But I really, really enjoyed this. It features Annie and Fletcher, and they run a bookstore and private investigation firm. And the bookstore, I believe, was called the Secret Bookcase. And so this man comes into their business one morning, and he's frantic. He's covered in blood. He doesn't know whose blood it is. He doesn't remember the last 12 hours, the last 8 hours. The last thing he remembers is being at a track meet. He's a track coach for a very prominent local school. So they're just like, what do you mean? So he asked them to investigate. He doesn't want to go to the police. And so they begin to investigate. And it leads them to a dead body. And the victim is the the coach who came in is his assistant. So now, they have to contact the police, and they bring the man in for questioning, and he begs Annie and Fletcher to continue to investigate on his behalf, and so they do. And it was just a fun ride. I enjoyed it. This was another one that I listened to and read, and it was just a charming, charming story. And so I guess Ellie Alexander has like a million books. She has all different kinds of series. Um, I've seen some of her stuff before. I didn't realize how prolific. And again, I just didn't realize it was just cozy fun. So I gave this one a 4 stars because I enjoyed it, and I look forward to going back and visiting with Annie and Fletcher again. So now, hold on to your hats. This book is called There's Only One Sin in Hollywood, and it is by Rasheed Newson. And honey, this book is told in the vein of somebody who is spilling the tea. And it's told from the perspective of Aaron Toussaint, who is a former backlot fixer in Hollywood, but back in the 1950s and 60s. And he did all kinds of stars, but particularly he, as a black man, he was tasked with uh, looking into the backgrounds of black actors, of keeping them, of making sure that they weren't doing anything that would embarrass the studio. So Aaron gets assigned to Xavier Barlow, as one of the people whose career he's looking, he's trying to keep him from going off course. And Xavier is set to become the next Sidney Poitier. Now, I will tell you, one of the really, really fun things about this book is how they mention all sorts of Black Hollywood, just Hollywood people, names that you know. If you're, especially if you're my age, these are all people that that, for me, that I grew up with. So it was a lot of fun because, as I said, the story takes place in the book. The bulk of the story takes place from the late 50s on through the late 60s. And it's now 1970-ish. And so Aaron has decided to pull back the curtain and tell you the real deal about what happened to Xavier Barlow. I will tell you that it is, Aaron is a gay male lead, as is Xavier, and the relationships that form in this book are just, it is what it is. If you have a problem with if you have a problem with guys who love guys, then this might not be the book for you. I happen to absolutely love it. As I said, I love that feeling of talk of I refer to this as hanging out with your favorite gay uncle, somebody who, your parents are going to tell you one story, but when they leave the room, he's going to be like, honey, this is what really happened. And he's going to just spill the tea. That's who Aaron Toussaint is. I absolutely love this book. Um, it was 5 stars for me. I loved it. I enjoyed it. I was drawn into the story of wanting to know more. There's another story, a sort of overarching plot that deals with a Black war hero who wants to get into the movies, and just how those lines intersect. It was just a I was really there for the story, so I really enjoyed it. So there's Only One Sin in Hollywood by Rasheed Newson. Great book. Now, my next book, or there are actually two books, are by the same author. M.W. Craven has a series. He has multiple series, I guess, but this series features Detective Washington Poe. And Washington Poe is he's in Cumbria, which is part of North, northern England, I want to say, near Scotland. And he works with a unit that specializes in serial killers. So, Black Summer, I believe, is book 2, and The Mercy Chair, I want to say, is book 6, maybe. Excellent. Uh, in Black Summer, it deals with a celebrity chef whose daughter goes missing. Only Poe accuse gets him convicted of murdering the girl, and then the story starts maybe 4 6 years later, where the girl stumbles into the police station and claims to be the daughter, and claims not to know much about where she was or how she got there. So Poe gets upbraided by several people in the police department who think that the chef was, there was a rush to judgment because he had such a visceral dislike of the chef when he first met him. So now, Washington has to prove or disprove that that the daughter was really murdered, or to figure out what exactly is going on. It was excellent. I loved it. Now, the other one, the Mercy Chair sort of opens. It's different. It's almost told like There's Only One Sin in Hollywood, where as instead of you going along in the mystery and the thriller and getting information along with Washington. This one, Washington is looking back and explaining the story to us, which worked out to be a good device, especially because of the ending, which was mind blowing. I gave both of these books a 5 star. So if you like a good, gritty, these books are dark. I mean, in terms of what happens to the characters and the depravity, they're dark. So just know that going in. Now, the next book that I read, I can't believe I read all these books this month, was The Red Dragon. Now, that's an oldie, it's an oldie but goodie by Thomas Harris. This was a part of the Hannibal Lecter series or books. It wasn't really a series, um, but I had read Hannibal. I had read the other books, but I'd never read The Red Dragon. Man, oh man, talk about dark and gritty and depraved. But the thing about it was that, you got to spend time inside the maniac's head, inside, so you got to understand his thinking and how he became the way he became. um you know his what what he did was monstrous, but I could also say what was done to him as a child was also monstrous. So, we do make our own monsters. um so that one was another 5-star classic. uh, you know I really enjoyed it. Now the next book has been really popular online. Oh, it's so great. Oh, you know, you just can't hear enough about it. And it's No Exit by Taylor Adams. And in this story, there's a college student, Darby, who is going home on Christmas break. And or not Christmas break, I'm sorry. She's going home because her mother is ill, and she's trying to get home in this snowstorm. But the storm gets so bad that she has to pull out off at a rest stop area. And there are a few other people there inside the rest area. There's no phone signal, or phone signal is iffy. They're just sort of they're struggling to get the weather radio to give them information. They find out that certain highways have been closed, and so Darby gets antsy, and she decides, I'm going to go outside and try to find a signal. She's got her phone and she's trying to find a signal. uh, and in the course of doing that, she discovers that there is a child in a car locked in a cage. And then it kicks off from there. I would have gotten the bad guys would have got me right away, or the bad guy or whatever, because I would have went stomping back into that rest area and asked them, who the hell done tied up this baby out here in your car? If y'all don't come get this child. I mean, I would have acted a complete nut about getting that baby out of there. Or I would have just gotten a tire iron out of my car and just beat the shit out of the car until I took the baby out. I mean, I'm just being honest. But that's not what Darby does. And thus ensues this cat and mouse trying to figure out who is the culprit, because she knows that somebody inside that rest area, there are not a lot of cars there. So somebody inside that rest area is responsible for this baby being in the car. Um, I gave this 3.5 stars. I mean, I'm sure a lot of you might want to come for me or whatever. People just, rave about it. Oh, it was so great. I wanted to punch all of them in the face except for the child. And I'm going to leave it at that. Now, my last book was a classic, The Murder of Roger Ackroyd by Agatha Christie. And this book has been around for decades. I believe it was written in 1926. Don't hold me on that, but it is a Hercule Poirot. I can never say his name. Hercule Poirot. mystery, and he has just moved to this small English village. And the story is told from the vantage point of a doctor who lives with his sister, and they are neighbors with Perot. And his sister, I believe Caroline, I'm almost positive her name is Caroline, is hilarious because she gets all the tea, and she is frustrated that her doctor brother doesn't want to give her the information, doesn't want to share information with her. But she, in the end, she doesn't care because she gets the scoop anyway from maids and shop people, and she always she's so nosy. And when a wealthy man in town, Roger Ackroyd, is found dead shortly after having dinner, uh, where uh, the doctor was in attendance, where he had invited the doctor to come and be in attendance. The whole village is up in arms about who killed Roger Ackroyd. Now, this is a classic uh, Agatha Christie, and I haven't read Agatha Christie in years. I mean, this is something my mother used to read, and I would get her books after her and read them. I loved it. I mean, of course, it's 5 stars. I really, really enjoyed this book. Um, so I did good. I had several 5 star books, a few 3.5, 3 and 3/4 stars, a few fours, and I didn't DNF one book this month. So, yay. Well, that is all. I am tired. I know you are tired of me. And that's all I have. Until next time, see you at the bookstore. Bye bye.